What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a P.O. Box, and Locals, Patreon. And all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. Bill, good to see you. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. And I just want to start right off on, you've been talking about this for a long time, but where are we at now? We're in the fourth quarter of 2025, and how are you feeling?
Well, as we spoke before recording, things are speed up, and they're only going to get faster. The information overload gets bigger and bigger every day, and the information comes faster and faster, and life was so much easier like 30, 40 years ago.
What are your thoughts then as metals were climbing, and then they've moved backwards? What are your thoughts? What were your thoughts when you're watching that? When you're watching the spike up, the value go up and then come back down, or not come back down, but go backwards.
I will tell you what I told everyone that emailed me or called me or whatever. With the pullback, did you not expect any correction at all? That's the first thing. And the second thing is, be careful what you wish for, because $100 silver, that will break the derivatives complex. And everything runs on credit, everything runs on confidence, and derivatives break. If derivatives break, credit breaks, and without credit, the system doesn't continue. So I would just say, be careful what you wish for. And one of the things I was thinking on the way up was, hopefully when we get over $50, this thing doesn't just snap and that market break, because all other markets will break with it. And then we get into the great taking, and then we get into the Mad Max scenario. Just a couple days from now, 3 days from now, they're talking about the EBT benefits being canceled. Can you imagine the chaos it's going to be at grocery stores?
This episode is brought to you by McIlvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcilvaney.com/coffee and a mic. Yeah, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine this morning, and we were talking about that with the EBTs, the EBT cancellation effective November 1st. And they say the number, I've heard 42 million, but one of the things he pointed out, I didn't even think about, that number is probably much, much higher because you're not factoring kids.
I don't know whether it factors kids in the 42 million, or that's 42 million heads of household. And I have said this, and I wrote about this a long time ago, probably 10, 15 years ago, that if you most people our age, and there's very few people left who actually lived through the Depression or really have any memories of the Depression and how bad it was, but everybody's seen the black and white pictures of food lines, these massive, long food lines. Even 10 or 15 years ago, we would have had those massive food lines if they weren't being paid electronically and be able to walk through the the food line just like anyone else, present their EBT card, and boom, they're gone. If those people had to line up every day, the lines would be astonishing. And I mean, what would that do for confidence? So I think I'm just bringing this up because there are enormous food lines, but we don't see them because the payment method is far different today than it was in the 1930s.
Well, and also too, if the kids aren't reported in that 40 million, 40 plus million, I mean, I would say that the number is probably closer to 25% of the population of the United States is relying on the government.
Yeah, that would be the case if the kids are not included. I suspect they probably are, but still 42 million. That's one out of every what, eight, nine people
Yeah,
that don't have the in to eat or survive. And just listen to what some of these people are saying. If you take my EBT card away, I'm just going to steal. And that's why I'm saying, just imagine what the grocery stores are going to look like. You're going to have people filling up shopping, just walking around. And I mean, that's going to be commonplace all over the country.
Do you think though? It always seems like they work something out in the 11th hour and kick the can down the road, because in the end they don't want the pitchforks coming out for them, so to speak. Do you see that scenario
Right.
playing out here?
Very possible. I mean, who knows whether, they have a last minute deal and that's saved, or they do a separate deal and they save it separately from the funding of the budget. I mean, I don't know. I hope they figure something out. But keep this in mind: when all is said and done, we're going to get to that point anyway, uh, where the cards don't get credited, or they get credited and the credit doesn't buy anything. And let me go one step further when I say, and the credit doesn't buy anything. Here we are, and actually right now, and I don't know whether the Fed cut or didn't cut. Uh, it's 1 o'clock, or I'm sorry, 2 o'clock Eastern time right now, and the Fed's announcing. Think about this: the Fed's cutting interest rates, and where are we? The stock market's at all-time high. Uh, the housing market has cooled off, but that has not corrected yet. Really, the only thing that's been devastated so far, and I mean really devastated, is commercial real estate. I mean, a lot of those properties are down 50, 60, 70% or more from just from 2015, 2017. Uh, so you're you're looking at the Federal Reserve juice the economy with markets already at all-time highs. What could possibly go wrong with that?
What as we see right now, then okay, so let's say they kick that can down the road for a little while, and then the Fed, which I didn't even get a chance to look at as of recent, if there's been any kind of announcement of what they're going to do, but where what do you see then for the rest of the year in terms of where precious metals go, and then will there be a correction in real estate, residential, in your opinion?
I don't know in dollar terms. I suspect, yeah, you'll see a pullback. Uh, okay, I've just pulled the story up. Yeah, they did cut rates. Um, and they're going to end their balance sheet runoff in December. So I mean, this is they're pumping more money into the system. As far as your question goes, the rest of the year, that's I mean, you're looking at 2.5 months, and I suspect things are going to get bad, like really quickly at some point in time. It could be, and it very well could be December, because you've got a big delivery month for both silver and gold off of COMEX. If either of those fail to deliver, it's game over. and we'll be in within Mad Max world. The beginnings of it are 72 hours after that happens, because you're talking about the human stomach. I mean, how many people have food stored up? Not, not a whole, not a big percentage of the population. And I would say a bigger percentage of the population has nothing stored up.
Yeah,
So juicing the markets now, I think, is a big mistake, because what I'll ask you a question: what happens in a month or 2 months or 3 or 4 or 5 months, and all of a sudden the economy's starting to sputter, and the markets have turned down, the markets are getting smacked? What's the Fed going to do? Cut more? Just keep cutting? We're going to go back to 0% rates, or are they going to try to, like they did before, try to foist negative rates, which make no sense whatsoever? There's no logic to that. But cutting rates with markets at all-time highs is a huge mistake, and it will create the conditions for really high inflation.
Well, and also, to what you said, and then, going off track here for a minute, with the air traffic controllers too, right? Where, I mean, you got the EBT situation, but also air traffic controllers aren't getting paid. I don't know that I'd want to be in the air right now with all that going on.
I don't know whether that's true or not. I know back in the days of Reagan, when they had the government shut down, the air traffic controllers did get paid. Somehow, some way, they paid them.
Yeah, everything I'm reading, and I could be wrong, that they will get their money, but they're currently not getting paid. Their checks are not getting deposited in their accounts as it sits right now.
Okay.
So you've got that, you've got EBT, and you've got the Fed now doing a rate cut, which, if inflation starts to pick up again or accelerate, 6 months from now, where are we going to be?
In a disaster. I mean, if inflation starts to pick up, what's the Fed tool to fix that? Raise rates and heighten credit conditions and suck money out of the system. Can you really do that to the biggest bubble in the history of history without the bubble collapsing? And when the bubble collapses, everything's going to go, because it's all based on paper. There is no foundation to this system. The foundation are U.S. Treasuries. The foundation are IOUs issued by an insolvent, bankrupt entity.
How will the government respond at that point? Because people are going to be clamoring. Then now the pitchforks are really going to come out. What will be, not that there is a solution, but how will they react?
You're probably going to see, if you can imagine a bobsled going down a run, and they make one bad turn and they're bouncing from one wall to the right wall, to the left wall, to the right wall, to the left wall. They're bouncing back and forth. I mean, I could envision the Fed, one day saying they're going to cut rates, and then a week later they're going to raise rates, and then they're going to cut rates, and then they're going to raise rates. I mean, they've backed themselves into this corner. And I mean, obviously, when I say themselves, it's the powers that be. But who's it going to affect? It affects the population. And we've lived beyond our means for so long that, yeah, people are going to complain, but they don't understand. They've had 10, 15, 20 plus years living a lifestyle that we had no right living, because we lived beyond our means.
Yeah, and I still do you think that people I feel like people understand there's something not right here, because they thought Trump was going to come in and just fix all of it and they could go back to the way life was before. But I don't think they have a really understanding of where our system is.
No, they don't. And I mean, no, I said, barring the second coming of Jesus Christ, there's no way this is fixed, because it's math. You cannot change, alter, or fix math. The math does not work.
Do you are you amazed though that it's been able to keep stitched together for as long as it has?
I've been amazed longer. Yes, I'm absolutely amazed that they've been able to hold this together. Um, they can't hold it together forever. And I'll just go back to the failure to deliver of gold and silver. You can't print those. And, it's been it's the suppression scheme has been on, I guess, really since 1996, since Robert Rubin's strong dollar policy. But when you suppress the price of something, what you're doing is you're creating more and more and more demand, and you're inhibiting supply because there are mining companies that would have drilled. There's mining companies, uh, that would have grown from the exploration stage that didn't because the pricing was not there. Now we've got the pricing, but the problem is it takes too long. I mean, if you found a piece of property you drilled today and you found gold, you're not going to be up and running for 3 to 5 years anyway. So the supply is very inelastic, and suppressing the price, you're allowing more ounces to be bought for the same amount of dollars. If the price of gold or silver double, you're only able to buy half as many physical ounces, and that's what the problem is. The physical ounces don't exist to deliver, and we're going to find out. I believe it's going to be there's going to be a big problem in the December delivery. We'll see. That's opinion on my part. I mean, I try to do nothing but facts and logic, but opinions got to come in, and I believe that December is going to be the problem. You look at this month, the amount of gold contracts that were standing for delivery at the very first day, that number is now double later in the month. And if you go back 3, 4, 5 years ago, it used to be you'd start with 100 contracts, and by the time delivery was done, you'd only have maybe 20 or 30 contracts still standing for delivery. Everyone else accepted fiat settlement, payment in cash. That's not the case now. What you've got every single month is you start with that same 100, and by the end of the month, there might be 200 or 300 standing for delivery. So they're stepping up, they're buying the current month, and they're saying, I want delivery. And, this is October's another month as an example. I mean, I think there's only 1 month this past year that the contracts standing for delivery were actually less than first notice day. But month after month after month, people are stepping up, buying the current contract and saying, I want it delivered. And December, just because it is a big delivery month, it's one of the biggest. Um, that one stands out in my mind as a very real potential of this thing breaking.
Because they won't be able to meet the physical demands, is what you're saying. They're going to order it on paper and won't be able to meet the physical demand of delivery.
Right, right. And then the question is, if those contracts can't deliver, what is the value of a contract that cannot perform? The answer is zero. This goes back to what my late partner Jim Sinclair used to say. He would ask that question, what's the value of a contract that can't deliver? And he surmised that, you very possibly could see COMEX at $10 per ounce offered, no buyers, and the cash market at 50,000 ounce bid and no sellers. And that's an illustration right there of a contract that cannot perform. It'll go to, the paper will go to zero, and the metal itself would become unobtainable.
And it's not like people are going to be accepting of it to be delivered at a later date at that point. And that would spark the.
No, that's well. If they're asked to accept it at a later date, that's an admission right there of failure to deliver. I mean, it's like throwing blood in shark infested waters.
What do you think happened with the silver market then? And in relation, I had Andy Scheckman on last week, and we were talking about this. The LBMA and the COMEX. A large amount of silver was withdrawn physical. What were your thoughts on that, and who might be behind it?
Who withdrew it?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
From all over the world. I mean, you had buyers all over the world having metal delivered out, and there were rumors that China and Comex. I mean, they've sent metal over there to try to help supply for the delivery. Just understand that silver got more overbought on this run than any time. I think we equaled where silver got to on an RSI on the overbought with the 1980 Hunt Brothers episode. So I mean, to see the pullback, that's no surprise at all. And we should have had a pullback prior to even getting to 50. They ran it to 50, ran it up to what, 54, 50, or thereabouts. It ran, 10% through the 50 number, pulled back. Gold now is back over 4,000. Silver's at 48 and change, sniffing at 50 again. Once these things get their legs under them again, you're going to see another run. But they were due a correction. They have worked off some of the overbought. They're certainly overbought on the weeklies and monthlies. But the dailies, the overbought has been relieved somewhat. And let's see what happens. Again, I had tons of emails. People saying, "Oh my God, what's going on? The market's down. How come silver's down? How come gold's down?" You have to expect corrections. I mean, even in Weimar, Germany, when that was ramping up, you had periods of time where gold and silver were down early in the 1917, 1918. By the time 22, 23 came around, it was straight up, but you were looking at a mass exodus out of a currency and into gold and into dollars at the time, or dollars and pounds at the time. So we were due a correction. We got a correction. And when people would email me, "What's going on? Why is silver down?" I got to the point I was responding, "Does it really matter? Who cares?" And be careful what you wish for, because like I said, we get to 70, 80, $100 silver, the markets will break, and then you and we won't be doing interviews like this. We'll be worried about where the next meal is, going into your storage, go picking from your garden or whatever. The days of what do you want to eat tonight? Let's go to the corner store and pick it up. Those days are going to be over completely.
It's amazing we're talking like this. If we'd have spoken such things, 15, 20 years ago, which, I mean, again, I know you've been ahead on this.
I did 10 years ago, 15, 16, 17. When it became apparent, I started using the term Mad Max. And the comments and emails that I received, I'm a complete wacko. Well, now it's mainstream. I mean, even the average ordinary person can see it, especially people on EBT cards, because now they're looking at, in 2 days or 3 days, whatever it is, their cards aren't going to work. So, I mean, that stuff is what I'm trying to say.
You froze up there, Bill. So can you say what you just said again? You froze up for a second.
Yeah, crazy stuff is now normal.
And I think that people need to get back. They need to start accepting the fact that life is not going to go back to the way it was before COVID, and people need to prepare. And here's the other thing, though, is what I find. People have said, I don't provide any viable solutions. I don't ask my guests what are solutions you could be doing on the local level. So, Bill, I'm going to ask you that because apparently I never do that with anybody. What do you think people should be doing right now?
Uh, you obviously need to prepare. You need to stockpile things. You need to make sure you've got tools to fix things. I mean, things are going to break. I mean, I've talked about this. I have two separate well pumps. I have one that I used for irrigation. It was the original pump, and then a second pump. And what did I do? I went out and I bought the parts and a brand new pump. I mean, I have complete parts to rebuild an entire well. From the standpoint of, yeah, was it expensive? Yeah, I spent some money doing it, but I can tell you now, 3, 4, 5 years later, it's way more expensive, probably close to double if I went out and bought the parts today. Um, so prepare for, and I've said this: go home on a Friday, turn your power off, spend the weekend with no power. Know where the holes are uh, in your program, in your plan. I mean, you can go back and forth. Stuff that you and I have even talked about over time. The preparations. I mean, I have an entire section on my website geared toward preparing. So, from the standpoint of, if people are giving you a hard time about, what should I do to prepare, you're not giving us any solutions. Well, go to my website, click on Grizzly's Corner. There's more stuff there than than probably not the average person, but probably 95% of the people out there would be able to do. But the suggestions are there, the links are there. There are links to products. Um, Prepare to the point where you are self-reliant, and don't expect to be able to pick up the phone and dial 911 because somebody's on your property and you don't have a gun to shoot them, or somebody's hurt or sick or whatever. Nobody's going to answer 911. You're going to have to go alone.
Well, I think the other thing
And
that
I'll just say this. Let me say this, Mike. Anybody who's telling you uh, that you're not doing your job, you're not giving solutions, tell them to contact your editor and ask for a refund because they watch your videos for free. I would tell them to piss off.
Well, and I think that thank you for that, by the way. But I think that also people in cities, and I know I live in one, but we've
They're
normal.
dead.
Yeah.
They're dead. You live in a city, you're dead. There is no preparations or suggestions for you. If you live in a city, you're done.
We've normalized, the National Guard being deployed in, several cities now, DC and several other cities. We've normalized
Right.
this, and how many more will be coming? And to your point, things go really, really haywire. Uh, Good luck getting out.
Right. I agree.
But
Where are you
yet,
going to go? Where are you going to land? You'll be viewed as a looter. You get out into the country and you're viewed as a looter.
yeah, and if people think, somebody said to me, Bill, is they're like, you could just go up to Flagstaff. I said, okay, you think that if you think you're going to get up that freeway, that at I-17 going up north, one, they'll blow it up. They'll blow part of a bridge up to make sure you don't get there. If you somehow do, they're not going to welcome you with open arms.
Unless you bring something with you. Unless you bring something to the table.
What do you think? I know I'm running out of time here with you, but what do you think? Let's forecast for a second what the end of Trump's term will be. What will everyday Americans, what will life be like in the United States?
Well, you're talking 3 years out, or a little more than 3 years out. Uh, we will have already been through a disaster. I mean, I I can't tell you whether, the system goes down and stays down, or whether the system goes down, starts to come back up and sputters. I mean, I don't, 3 years out, we will already have been through a disaster. 3 years out is too far to speculate on what things are going to look like. But between now and then, there's going to be a financial and social absolute disaster on human terms that we've never seen before.
Worse than 29 in your view?
Oh, by far. First off, there's way more leverage in the system. You have a currency that has no backing. Currency had backing back then. And think about this: back then, neighbors knew neighbors. Neighbors helped neighbors. Nobody, people don't even know who their neighbors are now. And when somebody goes down, the neighbors come in and pick through the rubble like vultures. This social aspect is so different today from 1929. 1929, I'm going to say we were still if you want to call it, a godly country. The thought process today is me, me, me. Not what can I do to help someone else. The average person thinks, it's all about me. I'm going to take everything I can. And when somebody comes on hard times, like I said, neighbors come in and pick the corpse clean. That's the biggest difference, is the mindset, the social aspect.
Well, and the fact that people don't know how to do anything today either.
That too. Yeah, farming. We were an agrarian society in the early 1900s. I mean, even if you weren't a farmer, you knew how to grow tomatoes. You knew how to grow stuff. You knew how to can stuff. You knew how to hunt and clean a carcass. You knew how to fish. That's, people do their hunting and fishing now at the grocery store, and in many cases on credit.
Yeah, and there was a physical. I mean, that was my grandparents' era, which they're both gone now. But the physical, mental aspect too, because you were born, you had no choice. You were tough. We don't have that today.
Right. Well, and parents brought kids up differently. I mean, kids are not brought up the way they were back then to be self-reliant. Kids are brought up today and they're coddled. Just a very simple thing. If you messed up in school, you got your ass whipped. Remember that? I don't know if you're old enough to remember the paddle.
They were phasing it out. They were phasing it out in my. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. They were phasing it out.
Yeah,
when I
well,
was
they
in
weren't phasing it out in my era. Yeah, they weren't phasing it out in my era. I mean, if you did something wrong, you're bending over either in front of the principal or the gym coach or whatever. Today, if a principal or gym coach took a paddle to a kid's ass, they'll get sued, lose their job, completely game over. And that's a big problem with youth today. Everybody's entitled. If you grow up not thinking yourself as entitled, but there's an opportunity for you to do well in whatever field you want to do, whatever field you want to pursue, you are able to, with hard work, become successful. But the thought process now is, I don't want to do hard work. I shouldn't have to do hard work. I don't even want to work. I just want the government to support me. That's the mindset.
Yeah, and that comes back full circle to what we talked about, the amount of people that are, the government is paying for their food and their health care. And
right.
And I've said this, this is the other thing with the solutions, you're not voting your way out of this anymore.
Well, it doesn't matter who you vote for. It matters who counts the votes. And in today's system, it's not a two-party system. You get a boss, same as the old boss. And yeah, Trump has done some good things like closing the border, stopping the idiotic wokeness. But look at some of the things that he's done. And you look back, if it was 10, 20 years ago, even the right would be up in arms. I mean, think about this. If you boycott Israel, you get shut down. Well, whose alliance should your country, or should you, where should your alliance be? To your own country or to Israel? There's the new anti-Semitism laws.
Yeah, when they were talking about the peace resolution, I said, "There's no way. There's no way that's going to hold."
Well, and they're talking about turning Gaza into a resort. They're going to build high rises. I mean, in what world is that a normal or a real thing?
I can't believe
And
people.
if you criticize Trump, you get the Trump tards all over you, which are they're just as bad as the left, except it's the extreme opposite.
I can't believe anybody's still alive in Gaza after all this.
True.
And you know, are they going to be able? Are they going to be able to complete this? I don't think so. I mean, these people, they're resilient and they know how to fight. That's all they know.
Right. Well, I mean, then there's more. Then we could talk about Ukraine. I mean, that's a war funded by the West, funded by the U.S., and it started off. It all started off with the United States stealing $320 billion of Russian U.S. treasuries that they held. Outright theft. I had hoped that Trump would get in and we'd have a resumption of the rule of law, but that's not the case. And the first thing Trump should have done was say, "Here's your treasuries. The guy before me was an idiot. We stole them. We're sorry." And how do you have an international order of law if that can be done? If one country can just shut another country off, and that's why gold and silver are going higher, because you have central banks buying gold, buying silver, because you can't cancel those out. If the gold is in your hands, that value can't be canceled out unless they kill you, and the value still remains to whoever's going to put it up. Whereas with U.S. Treasuries, with the stroke of a computer key, all of a sudden that money is no longer yours. In what world does that make sense?
Yeah, and here's the ironic thing in all that. We can't the United States can't make the weapons. I don't want to say we because I have nothing to do with this. The United States can't make the weapons, and they make the weapons and they send them to Ukraine, but they need the rare earth minerals from China in order to do that. So it's almost like China's got
Right.
to approve
Right.
any war that the United States starts.
Correct. Yeah, and add to that, what nobody's talked about this. Where is the Strategic Petroleum Reserve right now? It's empty. Biden emptied it out. And I think I heard last week the very first buy is going to be 1 million barrels. That's ridiculous. 1 million barrels is nothing.
They still never refilled that. It's still empty from when Trump came back into office.
Yes. Yeah, the first buy, as I understand it, was 1 million barrels. A week or 2 weeks ago, I read about that. But yeah, no, that's not been refilled. And we have to rely on rare earths from China.
Which they're doing, all these EOs in order to fast track, to be able to start doing, mining our own earth minerals. But people, that takes years.
Right? It takes a long time. Mining takes a long time. Not like drilling an oil well, you poke a hole in the ground and just because of the pressure down below, the oil, comes up. Gold and silver and rare earth minerals, they're different. costs huge amounts of capital, and it takes time.
Where can people find you, Bill?
Just go to my website, www.billholter.com. If you want to contact me regarding precious metals business, there is a contact button on my site, or you can go directly to my business email. It's bholter@proton.me.
Bill, I always enjoy our conversations. One thing I love about you, man, you're to the point, and there's you get straight to it, and I thank you for that. So I look forward to continuing to, follow your work and more conversations ahead.
Thanks for having me.
Mic drop.